Listen, don't let them make you think you got it wrong. Don't let them do that with these Mandela effects, man. You didn't get it wrong. You're perfectly sane. They just trying to get over on us, bro. They trying to manipulate our minds. Something. Check these out.
More hints of the existence of parallel universes seem to pop up every day, and Mandela effects remain one of the most convincing hints of alternate realities. Number 10. Candyman is a 1992 American horror film in which the plot centers around a legend known as the Candyman. The tale states that if you were to repeat the Candyman's name in the bathroom mirror, the entity would appear. In the movie, the name of the entity has to be repeated 5 times, yet there's some controversy regarding this. Some distinctly remember that the amount of times that the name has to be said was less than 5 and believe it to be 3.
Thank you. I didn't even have to hear it to know it. 3 is what I remember, because I was scared to say it in the bathroom or in a mirror or anywhere. I didn't play with that, bro. One of those movies, I think it was centered around in like New Orleans and stuff like that, made it even more real for me. I didn't play around with this one.
One Reddit user had brought this up on the Mandela Effect subreddit, explaining that when he was young, he'd been addicted to this movie because it had scared him so much. When he was going to sleepovers with friends, they would dare one another to go into the bathroom to summon Candyman. As far as the user could recall, the amount of times that the name had to be said was only 3, which is said in the mirror before turning the lights out. The legend goes that after turning off the lights, one would have to wait for the entity to appear. It was one day, 8 years ago, that this individual had been surfing through Hulu when he came across the Candyman movie as one of the options, but something was amiss. The tagline had read, "We dare you to say his name 5 times. This had been the first time that he'd noticed that the amount of times the name was said had changed. One individual explained that perhaps the confusion comes in due to a different supernatural entity who's summoned by repeating her name only 3 times in the mirror. Another user, though, also seemed to remember that Candyman was said 3 times and not 5, but pointed out that this may be due to the fact that this was the common method used to summon such entities. To get Rumpelstiltskin to appear, as the legend goes, his name is also repeated 3 times. In addition, there's a Tupac song with the line, "Say my name 3 times like Candyman." The Reddit users were split half and half, with some recalling that it had been 5 times, and others maintaining it was only 3. It does seem odd that out of all the legends where the name is repeated only 3 times, that one of them would have 2 extra repetitions. This was not the only Mandela effect associated with this movie. According to a user named JDay057, there'd been a scene in the film where a child had come face to face with the villainous Candyman. He explained that this scene was no longer there, and instead it was replaced by another child telling the story of what happened when the other had met the Candyman, as well as a scene of a mother standing in the store screaming. The user clearly remembered the scene where the child needed the bathroom and had whined to his mother before running across the street to the bathroom. That whole entire scene now no longer appears in the movie. One person suggested that it may have just been a scene from the movie's trailer that was not added to the film, but others seem to recall this part of the movie and maintain that it was altered.
See, in this streaming era, where they can make updates to movies and do different things because we're streaming it, you can get away with doing stuff like that and trying to manipulate people. Well, back when it was hard copy, once you had that VHS, once you had that DVD in your possession, they couldn't change it. So today's times, I feel like that, yeah, they can change and alter things, and you go back and feel like you're confused.
Number 9. The Nightmare on Elm Street centers around a disfigured villain named Freddy Krueger, of whom teenagers fall victim to in their dreams. The villain is portrayed as wearing a hat and having fingers with sharpened blades attached to them. He has a creepy disfigured face and a striped sweater, of which has become subject to controversy. One user ventured onto the subreddit dedicated to the Mandela effects with the caption, "Freddy Krueger sweater, red and green or red and black stripes." He further explained that he just watched a YouTube video by Moneybags73, which was captioned, "Mandela Effect, Freddy Krueger sweater has changed, a nightmare on Elm Street." The director of the films, Wes Craven, can be heard saying that the sweater was red and green in an interview, but it appears that it's no longer this color combination. In some images, it now appears that the sweater is red and black instead. But it could be explainable since green is rather dark, and not all televisions have the same settings, especially not during the 80s.
That's what I was thinking. Like this one here, y'all can argue about this one because it's hard to know back then with TVs and how they were, the color, and how good your TV was, and this and that and the third. That it could have been a dark green, but I thought black. But I can't be mad at nobody saying it was dark green and actually remembering what it was.
But in some pictures, Freddy Krueger appears to be wearing a red and black sweater. While the comments section of the user's posts has sparked debate, he maintained that it had changed and told everyone to rewatch the movies. Some of them had and found that it was still dark green and red, whereas others had a more black tone to it. After some back and forth, the Reddit user explained that he remembered it being a lighter shade of green, and that it was now a whole lot darker, almost entirely black. Moneybag73 was not the only YouTube channel to bring this Mandela effect up. Thriller Bad Productions captioned their video as Freddy Krueger Sweater Mandela Effect, along with the hashtag Glitch in the Matrix. In this video, they explained that some recalled that the sweater had actually been red and black the whole time, but has now only been changed to red and green instead. Looking at Freddy's action figures, it does appear that the sweater is black and not green. The same thing can be seen in images and videos online. This subject appeared on another Reddit post, and this time the colors were red and dark gray, according to some. The poster told everyone to look at the well-lit scenes in the movie, and they'll find that it has been altered. Perhaps this particular one was found out by the people amidst the alterations that the government had been making to our everyday lives. Or perhaps, as another theorist suggests, during the merging of universes, certain things were left unchanged, and the residue was not thoroughly cleaned up. The user then proceeded to link a variety of images of Freddy Krueger wearing a gray and red sweater. Strangely enough, some of these links don't open, and it appears that the ones that do have green and red sweaters.
Listen, I so bad want to argue red and black, because in my mind, that's what it was. But if you ask me to, and I'm a gambling man, if you ask me to bet, I'd back off of that one. That one there, because, yeah, with the colors and everything like that and the TVs, it's no way for me to be 100% sure in my mind.
Number 8. Saw is a movie franchise that revolves around John Kramer, also known as Jigsaw, who plays the role of a villain who traps his victims in life-threatening situations. There's a common line that Jigsaw says during these movies that's been quoted over time. Would you like to play a game? Most distinctly recall this quote from the movies and memes that have been made about it, but the character never says this line. This Mandela effect was brought to Reddit by a user named SteadyNUFC7. He explained that he'd only just discovered this example of the phenomena and described that it's an iconic quote from the film industry. The actual line that Jigsaw says is, "I want to play a game," which doesn't seem quite right, nor does it have the same effect. The user explains that this does not make sense, and using this line takes away the creepy effect, giving the characters a choice even though they don't have one. Some of the commenters don't seem to recall this memory, and always knew it as not being a question to the characters. But there are a few who do recall this line, such as Jen Bruge, who says that they remembered that there was at least one time in the movie where Jigsaw says, "Do you want to play a game?" and not, "I want to play a game," nor "Would you like to play a game?" Many seem to remember variations of the line, where some think it was "Let's play a game." One user pointed out that in the 1983 movie War Games, a supercomputer would always say that line, and thought that perhaps this is where the confusion comes in. But many of the users don't recall watching or even hearing of this movie, and so it didn't make sense that this is where the misconception had been derived. He then argued that it had been in pop culture for quite some time, and could have been referenced throughout the years, leading to the idea that this was the line that Jigsaw had said. Another variation popped up in the comments, as one user suggested that the line was, "Shall we play a game?" Infinite Living 7 expressed that he recalled the character asking a question, and not stating that he wants to play a game. One commenter had even claimed that he used to phone his friends and quote the line, "Do you want to play a game?" as a joke, For the most part, the users seemed to recall that it was a question that the villain had asked his prisoners. There also appear to be some residual hints of this line. According to a commenter, an official advertisement for the Saw games on Twitter had even misquoted the line. Fortunately, one of the Reddit users was able to find a YouTube clip of Jigsaw saying the line how they remembered it, but unfortunately that link leads to a page saying this video is not available anymore, rather conveniently.
I want to say it was a question. It was a question the way I remember it. And that's another one of that we can go to the DVDs. You know what I mean? Looking it up on YouTube or anything else, I don't feel like you're going to get the right answer. You got to go back to if you had the DVD or the bootleg for some of us that might have had that, you know what I mean? But if you had the DVD, you can go back and look at that and see. I feel like it was a question. I'm almost 90% sure it was a question.
Number 7. 7 years ago, another random Mandela Effect was discovered. This time, it was in the famous Bee Gees song, How Deep Is Your Love. A user named Sakroff immediately took to the Mandela Effect subreddit after discovering this example. He explained that he just found a fresh Mandela Effect on YouTube, and it was the Bee Gees song. The user found that the lyrics I really need to know were replaced with I really mean to learn. The user explained that he'd not seen this particular example appear on the subreddit, and had discovered it himself while singing along to the song without being prompted. Scampy008 posted a link in the comments stating that Chris Tucker, Michael Jackson, and Barry Gibbs had all gotten the lyrics wrong as well. Not everyone was in agreement here. Some from Universe B were saying that it was always meant to learn. They also claimed that the reason most people are misremembering the need to know part is because of the predictability of lyrics. To counter this, TC7200 shared an openable link with a statement, quote, "How about that? He had a moment of predictability there." The video was the performance of the song, sung by Andy Gibb, the younger brother of Barry, Robin, and Maurice Gibb. He formed the Bee Gees band in the mid-1960s, and at 1 minute and 6 seconds in, Andy sings I Really Need to Know. So could he have gotten his own brother's song lyrics wrong? Additionally, 1 minute and 53 seconds into the same song, the background singers can be heard saying the same thing. Moneybags73 had also taken to a platform known as Steam It with this Mandela Effect. He explained that the Bee Gees song had changed from I really need to know to I really mean to learn, along with the hashtag multiverse and phenomenon. He also added a video of the song in which the Bee Gees were performing it live. 1 minute and 52 seconds in, it can clearly be heard as I really mean to learn, with the singer overly enunciating the words. In another performance of the song, also 1 minute 52 seconds in, the group can be heard singing I really mean to learn. On the subreddit, Novusad revealed another scary piece of the puzzle. The song had been played inside the World Trade Center, and a YouTube video, which is now no longer available, revealed the music that came from the speakers within the building. It's thought that perhaps the lyrics on this day had been I really need to know, coming from the speakers. Conveniently, this video cannot be watched since it has been removed. Rovan Walker, one of the commenters, explained that he'd asked his wife what the lyrics were, and without hesitation, she said, I really mean to learn. Well, he recalled it being I really need to know. He furthered this by saying that he was wrong about the song Santa Claus is Coming to Town. He'd been singing it as you better not shout, better not cry, better not pout, instead of you better watch out, better not cry, better not pout. It was clear that perhaps the user was not from the same reality as his wife. Another user had explained that they were a teenager when the song had come out, and also recalled that the lyrics were I really need to know. He also explained that he'd watched British TV, such as Monty Python, and claimed that this was not just a case of mishearing the lyrics, as some had suggested.
Yeah, I'm starting to think we all came from different universes, parallel universes, whatever. Because that Santa song is totally wrong the way he stated it. What? Like, and then you got to be careful with these lyrics, with these videos on the internet, man. We have deepfake technology. We have AI. Things can be changed. So what you thinking they're saying, or you thinking that was them back then and there's no way they can change it because this is an older video, you're wrong. You're wrong. Like, we're in a technology era nowadays, bro. They can do a lot of altering. That's why I say those hard copies that they didn't take from you and alter are gold. That's how we know what truly is, what it truly was saying back then. But y'all not finna change Santa's song. No.
Number 6. Another allegedly misquoted song is California Dreaming by the Mamas and Papas. Phi Weaver took to the Mandela Effect subreddit to argue that the lyrics had been changed from begin to pray to pretend to pray, and stated that the song had gone from magical to cynical with just one word. Of course, not everyone agreed with this Mandela Effect. One had expressed that it had always been pretend and not began, and that if it were the other way around, then the verse would not make sense. But another pointed out that the live version of the song, which the poster had linked, may have differed from the original. They also pointed out that, quote, I got down on my knees and pretend to pray did not use the word pretend in the correct sense. It should have been either I got down on my knees and pretended to pray, or alternatively, I get down on my knees and pretend to pray. There are a few versions of the song, which may be where the misconception had come from, but perhaps those other versions had also thought that the lyrics were I began to pray. In Bobby Womack's version, he sings, got down on my bended knee and I began to pray. Confirmed Cynic had discovered some residue for this Mandela Effect, because apparently the band had been confused as well. It was explained in an article that the group had been on the road after their song had become a hit. One of the members had been doing a sound check with Cass and sang the lyrics, I began to pray. This caused Cass to look at him and say, what did you say? I thought the lyrics were I pretend to pray. He then stated that this was how she'd been singing it the whole time, even though the lyrics were supposedly began. The same user who found the article had explained that from a structural standpoint, the word began made more sense, then a mid-sentence shift to the present tense, with pretend, which should have been pretended. According to Jim Bob Xmas-Eve, both versions were found to be correct, and it was initially written as pretend to pray, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense, hence the transition to began. Yet, strangely, some users do not recall it ever being sang as began, and now most versions only have the word pretend. Quantum Immortality detailed that they were taught to sing it as began during choir, and there was even sheet music with the lyrics on it in front of them. Akeet Beetle 4664 recalled the switch from some years prior to the post, and maintained that it had initially been began, but was switched to pretend. Hellywood Holmes confirmed this by saying that she would hear the song most mornings while her mother was driving her to school. She explained that the radio station would play nothing but older music, and her mother had even sung along with the song, and the lyrics had always been began. Number 5. Sweet Dreams was a song that was done by the British new wave music duo called the Eurythmics. The song was released as their fourth and final single from their second album, which has the same name. This song had been their breakthrough hit and reached number 2 on the UK singles chart back in 1983, and then number 1 6 months later on the US Billboard Hot 100. All in all, the song was extremely popular, which is why it comes as such a shock that it was subject to the Mandela Effect. It turned out that the famous lyrics were being sung incorrectly. Jess the Melon had come to the Mandela Effect subreddit to bring this dilemma up. Jess explained that they recalled the song lyrics being Sweet Dreams Are Made of These, but the day prior overheard someone singing it as Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, and quickly searched the lyrics. They came to find that the person was singing it correctly. It was not these, but rather this, which also sounds rather out of place. Bubbles and Black Smoke agreed with the memory of the lyric having the word these and not this. They also pointed out that it rhymes with sees and disagree. The lyrics, as most will remember it, went as follows. Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world in the 7 seas. Which would make sense for the last 3 words of these 3 sentences as a rhyming pattern. But a user explained that he was greatly disturbed by this, and that he'd been spinning this specific track at 80s nights for the last decade. Again, not everyone was in agreement over what the lyrics had been, and told the others that they were wrong, and it had always been the word this. They also explained that perhaps this just sounded more like these to some people. Another user explained the same thing, stating that this and these sound really similar, but they'd been met with disagreement. Willy Wonka 1859 stated that these two words do not sound similar at all, and it would be like saying is and ease. Net Nomad got right on the case and had a look at the YouTube video, and stated that it sounds like the singer is saying both this and these. He then had a look at the Marilyn Manson cover of the same song, only to find that he very clearly sings these, yet the lyrics on the video are saying this. He then asked why the lyric changed, and if it was due to artistic license or perhaps residue. But others seem to recall that it had always been this, such as one user who stated that his sister would teach him the lyrics to the song while she'd been fixing his hair as a child. Snack Hoarder asked the community if it sounded the exact same to them as they remember it, and it just came as a surprise that the singer was singing this and not these. Reanimator claimed that this is one of those instances where the artist will intentionally mispronounce a word so that it fits in with the rhyming pattern. This begs the question, why would she not just sing these instead? Using this just doesn't make sense. Another Redditor commented saying it's these and rhymes with disagree. And this was supported by Designer Tour 9871, who claimed it's always been these because it rhymes with C's. Reddit users were not the only ones caught by this Mandela effect. One Wheel of Fortune contestant had also fallen victim to the song. Chris Bryant was the contestant, who'd been faced with a song lyric puzzle on the show. He almost had it solved when he buzzed in with the lyrics, "Sweet dreams are made of these," even though this had already been on the puzzle. His mispronunciation of the last word rendered his solution incorrect. Moneybags73 had also taken this example to Steemit for further discussion. He added a link to the video of the song and captioned it as, "I always remembered Sweet Dreams by the Eurythmics as saying sweet dreams are made of these." He then commented on the change that was made for that last word becoming this instead. Moneybag73 was met with a comment from another user who stated that this was a good example of the Mandela effect. He also stated that YouTube was not the best place for discussing this subject, and that he would be taking to Steemit from that point on. Moneybag73 explained that he'd been trying to establish a Mandela effect presence on Steemit as well, and that it would be the main source of information for the phenomenon.
Listen, I'm gonna put this one to bed, right? And I'm gonna take you a different place. If you know the rapper Nas, go back to his song that uses this song as a lyric for his chorus, and it's sweet dreams are made of these. Go listen to it way back early on in Nas's music. I'm telling you, sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to, and he also uses the line, who am I to disagree? I'm telling you, bro, that'll put that one to bed. See, they probably didn't think about Nas using that. They didn't think about that. Go check that song out and you'll hear it. If they don't do it online, find somebody that got a cassette tape like we talked about earlier. Then you'll find out.
Number 4. The Sword and the Stone is a Walt Disney film from 1963. It's an animated musical comedy that was based on a novel of the same name. In the movie, the King of England passed unexpectedly without having an heir to their throne. Thereafter, a sword magically appears inside of an item with the proclamation that whoever frees the sword is then the future king. Many had tried but failed to do so, and eventually the sword was forgotten, leaving England in the midst of the Dark Ages. The item in which the sword appears is subject to controversy and the Mandela Effect phenomenon. In the movie, posters and images, now it becomes apparent that the sword had been stuck in an anvil, but most people remember that it was stuck in a stone. This is what one user had mentioned to the Reddit community. He explained that he loved the movie as a child and that it had been one of the best Disney movies. He recalled that the sword was lodged in a stone that was either square or rectangular, with a white or light gray color. But this stone has now changed to an anvil, and just doesn't seem right to the majority. Film Fan 95 alleged that the sword had been placed in an anvil, and the anvil sat atop a stone. The sword had penetrated through the anvil and got stuck in the stone as well. He further explained that there are a few versions of the story of King Arthur, one of which includes an anvil. It's thought that perhaps those who misremember this subject are confusing it with another version of the same storyline, which only includes the stone but no anvil. The Reddit users were divided, whereas some distinctly recall an anvil and others did not. Reddit RX recalled that it was a rock and not a rectangular-shaped slab, and that this had only appeared in The Legend of Zelda. Mela68160 pointed out the question as to why they would call it the Sword in the Stone if it appeared in an anvil. They too remember it being a stone in which the sword was embedded, and so did other Redditors. One individual explained that on his VHS copy of the movie, on the cover the sword was in an anvil, yet during the movie no anvil was presented. Another had claimed to have just watched the movie every day during the summer, and would never have said that there was an anvil if anyone had asked him. Some recalled that there had been a rectangular rock covered in snow with a smaller rock of the same shape on top of it, which appears a whole lot more accurate than the version with the anvil, which seems out of place and awkward. It appeared that the book itself, on which the movie was based, had also been altered. On the cover of the book written by T.H. White, the sword is jutting out of an anvil, and the same thing can be seen on another cover of the same book. Number 3. The Lone Ranger is an American Western television series that aired from 1949 to 1957, centering around a masked ranger and his Native American friend Tonto. In 1956, a film was made based on the series and then remade in 2013. The Lone Ranger had a catchphrase that he would utter, which has become the subject of the Mandela Effect phenomenon. While on his horse, the masked ranger would call out this catchphrase, which most people remember as being "Hi-ho Silver," but it appears that it's now changed to "Hi-yo Silver." Nathaniel Hebert brought this to the Reddit community through the subreddit Retconned 6 years ago, and the commenters seemed to be in agreement as to what the catchphrase was. One of the Reddit users has always thought that it was "hi-ho" until he read Stephen King's It. One of the main characters in the book says "hi-yo" over and over again. Wile E. Coyote 7 remembers "hi-ho" as another who recalled there being a song played at a social club that they used to attend, and the song lyrics would say "Hi-ho Silver, lining anywhere you go." Interestingly, one person was able to find a website with various newspaper clippings, and in most of them, the catchphrase was written as "Hi-ho Silver" when referencing the movie or series. An article was headed as "Hi-ho Silver Call Claimed Ranger's Own," and proceeded to detail that Buck Jones had filed a federal court suit for $250,000 in damages and injunction to stop the production of The Lone Ranger. Jones had claimed that he originated the call "Hi-ho Silver," which was featured in the production. So did these newspaper articles have it wrong as well? The catchphrase was even used in advertising, one of which was headed as "Hi-ho Silver, Final End of Month Sale," accompanied by a cartoon of the Ranger with a speech bubble saying "Hi-ho Silver away. I'm off to McKnight RD Dodge." Advertisements for children's cowboy suits were also accompanied by the catchphrase that everyone seemed to remember. Advertisements for the
I bet you, if you poll the entire world right now, they'll say "Hi-ho Silver," including the elderly. Like, if I could call my grandma right now, she'd probably say "Hi-ho Silver," because I think that's where I might have watched it at and first heard that was with her. She watches still to this day all those older movies, cowboys and all of that, every day faithfully. And I remember "Hi-ho Silver."
film itself that appeared on posters or in the newspapers added the same phrase that most seemed to remember. At the start of another article titled "Lone Ranger Remake Aims for Hip Audience," it was written, "Hi-ho Silver, he's young and in love with Tonto's sister." These newspaper articles served as residue for this Mandela Effect. Nathaniel Hebert stated that he'd also stumbled upon a "hi-yo" reference on old packaging and found that it looked rather foreign. Dave Barry, a humor columnist, had put out an article in 2000 in which he claimed to be shocked to find the phrase had always been "Hi-yo Silver." This article sparked debate where some claimed that it had always been "hi-yo," but others disagreed, stating it was "hi-ho." In addition to this, a book was made based on the film, and on its cover, above the lettering "The Lone Ranger," the phrase "Hi-ho Silver and away" is written. Number 2. Snoopy refers to an anthropomorphic dog from the Peanuts comic strip by Charles M. Schulz. He was also added to all the Peanuts films and television specials. Ever since the animated character's debut back in 1950, he'd become one of the most recognizable and iconic comic strip characters. Snoopy is also considered to be more popular than Charlie Brown in some areas. It's said that the dog was inspired by one of the creator's childhood dogs named Spike. It may come as a shock that this character has been yet another example of the Mandela Effect. An individual named Ryan came to the Mandela Effect subreddit and explained that he'd been watching Charlie Brown Thanksgiving and noticed something strange. He added a link to an image of the character himself. The pup had been drawn in black and white outlines with a black spot on his ear, and on his back with a collar around his neck. He then asked if anything appeared off to the other Reddit users, and something definitely did. Snoopy's tail was drawn as a regular dog tail with definition, and had been filled in with white. This seemed odd to both the poster as well as the users, as they recalled the tail being a single black line. Ryan explained that he had various Snoopy plushies and figures as a kid, and most of them had that same black tail. He initially thought that perhaps he was mistaken and that it had always been white or maybe just solid black, but it turned out the dog's tail was white with a black dot on it. He maintains that he knows he's not mistaken it for the black dot and distinctly remembers that his whole tail was solid black. Others seem to have recalled the thin black tail as well. Some began commenting that it was a thin, pointy black tail. Todd Chrisley's Skin alleged that they did in fact sell Snoopy plush dogs that had black tails, and that they're still available online. Judas Anthony 999 found some residue as well. He linked an article in which the artist had explained how Snoopy had grown and described him as having a thin black tail with a white tip, but conveniently that link is no longer available. Epic Journeyman visualized the character describing the happy Snoopy pose from the comics. The memory was of the character Airborne clicking his heels, the action being highlighted by the concentric lines, black ears, and the thin black tail. Another user was confronted and asked when it had ever been white, and maintained that it had been thin and black. Stevie Not Wonder had also watched the same Thanksgiving special, and thought that Lucy's voice was sounding different. Perhaps the cartoon had been subjected to a random alteration, or the merging of parallel universes, changing the look of the character as well as the voice of another. One person out of the 20 commenters stated that the tail had always been white, and that the shading on the cartoon and in the comics had been strange, which may have caused this confusion. He furthered this by stating that Snoopy had been everything to him as a child, and that he had a white tail. It's thought that the false memory may have derived from the character's various comic strip appearances, or was being confused with another famous dog, Pluto from Mickey Mouse, who had a thin, pointy, and wavy black tail. But most maintained that they distinctly recall the tail of Snoopy being black and pointed. And if this was not the case, then why would companies be making Snoopy toys with a thin black tail instead of doing it in full?
Y'all are good. The fact that y'all caught that, y'all are good. Like, that's on some photographic memory type stuff. I can't even participate in that one. Like, the fact that you caught that and are willing to argue that down and provide supporting facts about how you remember that and know that, yeah, bro, you're good. You're good in my book.
Number 1. Tweedledee and Tweedledum were two twin brothers in Disney's 1951 animated film, Alice in Wonderland. In the original film, the two characters are portrayed as round and wearing red pants, a yellow shirt, and a blue bow tie. Both of them also have red hair, which is accompanied by a hat. It's the headwear that has caused some controversy. Downvote Donnie had taken to the Mandela Effect subreddit, asking what had happened to Tweedledee and Tweedledum's propeller hats. He'd been referring to the item that decorated the tops of the characters' hats. In his description, he explained that there had been a tutorial in his Disney animation studio, where two brothers had propellers on the tops of their hats, except now they have flags. Corin87 was perplexed by this, stating that they were 20 years old and had watched the movie his entire life, and that it had always been propeller hats. Another user claimed that he'd spoken with his friend about an Alice in Wonderland cosplay, and they spoke of the propeller hats and never once mentioned flags. Looking back on some Google images, the yellow flags just appear to be rather out of place. Tommy Curran's guitar even found some residue in the form of Halloween costumes that are equipped with propellers and not flags. Witty Demfino agreed and had gone to Disney World as a child, where they sold red and yellow hats with propellers on them. Epic Journeyman had found himself on this post as well, and he'd allegedly gone down a whole rabbit hole about this exact example. He found that the creator of the propeller beanie was a man named Ray Nelson, who wrote 8 o'clock in the morning. This is what John Carpenter's They Live is based upon, and had also been a member of an enclave in Paris of poets and philosophers. Epic Journeyman found that the propeller beanie had taken off with him, but did not believe that it would make the cut as a prop in Alice in Wonderland. Only it did make the cut, so it would be conceivable that the animated version of the film would include them. Ginger Less Than 3 also recalled that there had been propellers in place of flags, and even claimed that Disney World stores would sell mouse ear hats with propellers that said Tweedledee and Tweedledum on them. It appears more fitting for the two characters to have propellers rather than flags. This strange phenomenon also appeared on Facebook, where commenters were also in agreement that the hats had propellers. Most of the Reddit users and others across the globe believed that the hats certainly had propellers on them, while a select few suggested otherwise.